Okay, please join me in thanking the World House Choir and their director, Dr. Ruck. Good morning, everyone, and welcome. My name is Jane Fernandes. She, her are my pronouns, and I have the honor of serving as president of Antioch College. I'm so proud to welcome you all here today to the 8th commencement of Antioch College, celebrating the graduating class of 2022. As you all know, community is a very important part of Antioch College, and our entire community should be acknowledged for their work and effort to make this day possible. Please take a moment with me now in recognizing and thanking many people who have been involved in planning and executing this gathering. Will the commencement committee please rise? They're probably all busy though. Okay, so they're David Atkins, Anita Brown, Donna Evans, Mary Evans, Akeelia Hayden, David Kamler, Austin Korner, Joshua Miller, Patty Nally, Matt Shetler, Roger Stopper, Nancy Wilburn. So let's give them a round of applause. So we also recognize the Antioch College facilities team. We know that many people are involved in the journey and support of our students. We want to recognize these people as well. Will the Board of Trustees please rise and remain standing? Will the President's team please rise and remain standing? Will the faculty please rise and remain standing? Will the staff please rise and remain standing? Alumni and volunteers, please rise and remain standing. Family and friends, please rise and remain standing. Graduates, please take a look around at all these people who have supported you in your journey and remember how they've helped bring you to this moment. I also want to thank and recognize Maureen Lynch for her many years of service and generosity to the college. Thank you, Maureen. Okay, please sit. Though today is about celebration and recognition, unfortunately, because Antioch is a community acutely focused on social justice, we cannot avoid addressing the devastating news yesterday from the Supreme Court. In plain and simple terms, this is a repeal of rights for the citizens of the United States and a step backwards for human rights. Despite being perhaps anticipated when viewed as reality, the impact of the official decision is no less distressing. Women's health, rights, agency, and choice are all limited because of this action. With this in mind, as well as all of the other ways that human rights are being repealed or threatened, such as the right of transgender youth to receive gender-affirming care, the rights of women to receive abortions, and the concept that it's not just a repeal of rights, which is pretty horrible. It's also that these kinds of rights are being categorized as criminal. And that is extremely scary for this community and for our whole country. So Antioch is a college that, I want to say the words that Catherine Romer was singing, like, we will stay. Yeah, Antioch College, we will stay. We will not be swayed, we will not be bent by things going on around us. We will stay, and we will fight. And I know all of us together can make a huge difference in the world. Antioch College is needed more than ever. Okay, so with this in mind, let's take a moment to center ourselves and remember those who we have lost throughout the year, including our own Bob Fogarty, and to appreciate those who are with us today, to experience the space where we share at this moment, and to consider the hope we have for all these you all well-educated, eager, and passionate people who are going out into this world that needs them so badly to create change. Please join me in a moment of silence. Okay, thank you. Turning now to the reasons why we are here, the people who have brought us together today. Greetings to you on this day of celebration and accomplishment. The Antioch College Class of 2022. I want to reflect for a moment on three things in your lives that are confluent. The expectations that have been placed on you, the inseparable impact of the events of the world around us and upon us, and unique places each and every one of you are coming from. As Antiochians at this very specific time and place, you have been asked to embrace your independence and lean into self-reliance. Though somewhat unconventional, but perhaps expected as you grew to understand Antioch, you charted your own educational journey. You took control of your studies. Some of you designed your own major. Outside of Antioch calls for you to grow in your personal agency, you were confronted with the unexpected. You experienced a global health pandemic and an associated international financial crisis. You had to make sudden changes in the way your classes were conducted and the co-ops in which you could participate. You bore witness to extremely dysfunctional social, political, healthcare, and economic systems, not specifically born out of the health crisis, as they have been with us for great lengths of time, but laid bare in distinct relief and contrast because of it. You did all of this simultaneously with being urged to actively engage in your community. You were tasked with participating in community governance. You were directed to find respectful ways to listen, thoughtfully challenge, openly conclude, passionately debate, and carefully listen to the voices and perspectives of those around you, in the classroom, in the community, and in the wider community. And more, through all of this, you've been asked to act in the world, making positive change and winning victories for humanity, as our founder, Horace Mann, said to Antioch's first graduating class. A lot has been asked of you, and these are not small challenges or tasks. I want to acknowledge this, and I want us all to take a moment to acknowledge the remarkable load of work and the remarkable way that you have risen to its challenges. Though this is my first commencement at Antioch College, and my time here has been relatively short, shorter than all of yours. In fact, I've witnessed all of your accomplishments. Well, I've witnessed some of them. I've seen your perseverance. I've experienced your spirit. I've seen you articulate problems and solutions with brilliance. I've seen some of you fail, but try again and be successful. Some of my fundamental understanding about Antioch College is because of you. The first class graduating with me here to witness. And I thank you all for that. I've been changed for the better because of your presence in my life. And the people gathered here today have as well. And we're all celebrating with you. We're so proud of what you've done. Really unbelievable load placed on you, and you've done beautifully. We're proud of who you are. We look on with knowing, optimistic anticipation of the great things you will continue to do, of the people you will continue to be. Because we have had the honor to meet you, to know you, and see what you're capable of. These practices, both of self and community reliance, inform how we now go out and navigate the world. There will be times of trial where your agency and your own ability to take action will be called upon. You may feel that you alone are taking up the fight. In earnest, I know that in some cases that may be true, but it's still essential. Yet just as you may have come to this place years ago in search of community, and I sincerely hope and believe you have found it, you have the opportunity to find community again. Whether that community is in the powerful force of the Antiochians who have come before you, the Antiochians who sit beside you at this very moment, or those in the world wholly unaware of what Antioch College is or means, but will soon understand a piece of it because of you, and already made community awaits you. Please join me now in welcoming Austin Korner, Community Manager, to share our land acknowledgement.
Thank you, Jane. In honor of today's commencement ceremony, I'd like to share a few thoughts regarding the acknowledgement of Native and Indigenous spaces. A land acknowledgement is an important path and a first step to dismantling racial and colonialized oppression within our spaces. Indigenous nations have always formally welcomed and acknowledged land territories when hosting visitors and when traveling to neighboring communities. The land is not merely a space that bodies occupy. It is a depository of culture, story, history, and tradition, and it is with these traditions in mind that we reflect and center ourselves and our thoughts towards respect. Please join us as we acknowledge and honor that the word Ohio comes from the Iroquois word Ohio for good rivers and was a place of gathering and ceremony, trade and exchange, food growing, sharing and story, and respect for culture. The Iroquois, Siouan, and the Algonquin-speaking peoples are still here. We can never separate the people from the land, for this land longs for its people. We acknowledge the homeland of the Shawnee, Delaware, Potawatomi, Miami, Wyandotte, Seneca, Chippewa, Ottawa, and the Wapakoneta. Over 39 historic nations and bands call this land home. Today we are gathered on the land that was unceded and stolen. I ask you to acknowledge these communities, their elders, both past and present, as well as future generations. We are committed to the process of working to dismantle the ongoing legacies of settler colonialism. We acknowledge that this place was founded upon exclusions and erasures of indigenous knowledge about how to care for these lands. We are obligated to support and educate each other with accurate information about the true history of this land. Decolonization means that we would strive to be in service of the water and the rivers and the animals in relational solidarity with them. And as people now on this land, we must do what we can to provide nature and wilderness with protection and defense. This land acknowledgement was authored by Shane Creeping Bear, Kiowa, in collaboration with Chief Ben Barnes of the Shawnee tribe based in Miami, Oklahoma, whose people were forcibly removed from Ohio areas around Wapakoneta in 1831. Other contributors include Don Knickerbocker, Anishinaabe, Jerry Neri, Dene, and support from the Greater Cincinnati Native American Coalition. It is now my pleasure to introduce Shelby Chestnut, Chair of the Board of Trustees.
Thanks, Austin. How's everyone doing? I have to admit, I think Jane and I might start sharing a brain because our comments are very similar, so I'll try and maybe adjust, but I'm really happy to be here with all of you. My name is Shelby Chestnut. I'm the chair of the Board of Trustees. I'm also a graduate of 2005 and a former community manager. I'm so happy to be here with all of you today. I can't believe it's our first commencement in person in 3 years. Let's just take a moment and look around at all the people who helped get you here today and arrive at this special moment. Your family, your friends, faculty, staff. I'm looking out and seeing people like Nancy Wilburn, Donna Evans, Denny Eagleson, Louise Smith, Shane Creeping Bear, Eric Miller, Duffy, Scott Sanders. They all helped me get here at this moment, and they're here with you today. It might not always feel like it, but what you've experienced to get to this moment is sacred. Antioch, despite its constant challenges, is a very special place. A place the rest of the world would benefit from knowing. Yesterday, we suffered a major gutting of our civil rights with the overturning of Roe v. Wade. I sat in the Arts and Science building with fellow Antiochians and trustees as the news came in, and while my heart sank, I also felt blessed to be surrounded by people who also call Antioch their political home and know the fight we have ahead of us to love and protect each other. I think in a moment where extremism and hate seems to be the dominant culture in this country, I'm reflecting back to historic commencements that seemed clear and necessary for a place like Antioch, but raised a lot of hatred and threats by the general public. There was the Mumia Abu Jamal commencement. He's a Black political activist and journalist who's still serving a life sentence and not given a fair trial and accused of killing a police officer. His commencement address was delivered by Leslie Feinberg, a transgender activist and writer. Bobby Seale, a former Black Panther who devoted his life to the liberation of Black people. Amy Goodman, we all know Amy Goodman, I think, the award-winning journalist and host of Democracy Now!, and this year's speaker, Emmett Schelling, a transgender man of color fighting in the state of Texas to keep transgender people safe from Texas lawmakers who will stop at nothing to continue harming transgender kids and their parents. I entered Antioch on the heels of a post-9/11, and U.S. imperialism seemed increasingly destructive and yet celebrated. And while we've seen, and most of you have grown up in a political climate fueled by hate and far-right extremism, you also have the added bonus of experiencing something only a few classes of Antiochians will ever experience. You navigated at least half of your Antioch experience in the midst of a global pandemic, and perhaps a true reckoning of societal power globally. And you've done it with a lot of grace. You've navigated internal ups and downs. You've remained steadfast in your commitment to Antioch's values in pursuit for justice. I hope you're able to see the transformation at the college you helped cultivate. There's now 2 voting student representatives on the college board of trustees. That's amazing. The continued growth and centering of community government and shared governance. The start of a new path forward with our president, Jane Fernandes. A visionary strategic plan passed just weeks ago, and just 2 days ago, the passage of next year's budget that allows for greater resources and transformation, which will be vital to the future of Antioch. You are acutely aware of the world you're entering, and your classroom, co-op, and community experience will be critical to the fight ahead. Today, celebrate and enjoy your last few moments on campus with the people who have not only become lifelong friends, but I imagine family. Once you're out in the world winning victories for humanities, you will often get a sense of nostalgia or longing for your time here. I encourage you not to lose that ever. Antioch has a way of staying in your life and guiding you when you need guidance most. Keep focused. Celebrate the people who got you to this day and always act for justice. With your brilliance in the world, I believe we will create a world that is led by Black, Indigenous, people of color, right? Where abortion is a universal human right. Trans people are celebrated and have access to safety and health care. Native land is not only acknowledged, but our climate and culture is protected. Feminism will become a shared value we all have. Disability justice will be embedded in our culture. And workers' labor will be valued. I'm really proud of all of you, and I'm so happy to be here with all of you. On behalf of the entire Board of Trustees, congratulations on this joyous day. I have the honor of introducing David Kamler, our Vice President of Academic Affairs.
Good morning. How are you? Happy? Yeah, I promise I'll be quick. So I'm David Kamler, Vice President for Academic Affairs and Associate Professor of Chemistry. It is my honor to introduce two members of the class of 2022 who will share their own reflections on their unique Antiochian experiences with great joy and pride and a lot of gratitude. I introduce our two speakers. Ruck. Asher is graduating with a Bachelor of Arts in Cultural Anthropology and Community Studies with a focus in global and transnational engagement. They are interested in life narratives through biography, memoirs, ethnography, and creative nonfiction. As a community member at Antioch, they have been involved in Council, serving as student representative and as chair. In their free time, Asher is a fan of music, video games, and taking care of their dog. After graduation, they will be continuing their time at Antioch in a new role as a staff member as they join the Student Affairs team as an administrative support specialist. Delaney Schlesinger-Devlin is graduating with a Bachelor of Arts in the Psychology of Social Behavior with a focus in French language and culture. They are interested in the many ways in which empathy can be developed in individuals that allows them to change their perspective in meaningful and constructive ways. Thank you. In addition, they are interested in how books can expand the understanding of the world around readers and allow them to learn as well as be entertained. In their free time, they work on community council, enjoy printmaking and reading any and all books. Their plan is to pursue a master's in social work at the University of Illinois.
I'm not sure if this is on. Oh, it is on. Great. Hello, everyone. So, today we will be talking to you all about the idea of transient mode. So transient mode is the idea here at Antioch that the only thing you can ever count on is change.
Although it is uncertain exactly when in the 90s the idea of transient mode was written into Antioch's history, it was inscribed into its physical infrastructure in 1997 when Antioch alum Becca Glazier painted the phrase upon the old Student Union stoop. As an art project that has since found much resonance within the Antioch community, it speaks to a common experience by those who find their way to our common space.
Things here at Antioch are always changing, more so than at any other college. That is the nature of our unique institution. We see constant ways in the way that things are run here. The systems of our education, our peers who are cycling on and off campus as we go on co-op.
Being transient means allowing yourself to change with your world.
Each term at Antioch is a new lived experience.
Given our transient existence, being tasked with writing the speech is difficult because it is forcing us to take a pause and a snapshot of who we've become and where we've come from over the last 4 years.
So before we talk about where we're all going, the two of us are going to talk about where we started and what we're doing right now.
So this is Delaney. They study the psychology of social behavior. They're from West Lafayette, Indiana, and before I knew them, they were a Shakespeare nerd who played way too much clarinet. I think we could have been friends in high school. Now Delaney will be getting their master's degree in social work from the University of Illinois Urbana.
This is Asher. Asher uses they, them pronouns and studies cultural anthropology and communal studies. They're from Ellicott City, Maryland, and before I knew them, they were busy playing video games and planning to work in the Foreign Service. I don't think that we would have been friends in high school, but I'm more than happy to have met them now. Asher will be working as administrative sports specialist for the Students Affairs here at Antioch.
But our experiences here at Antioch have changed both of us, and learning to live with our transient existence is what has caused our ability to be successful here at Antioch.
When I came to Antioch, I wanted to have a college experience that was interesting, but I had no idea how that looked. I love routine and planning things, and anyone who looks at my Google Calendar will know this. I thought I would be able to chart out my entire college career in the first quarter. And instead I chose a thing that scares me more, which is change. My first co-op was in Greece, where I worked with adults with special needs. I had never been to another country alone before, let alone expected to be a caregiver. My co-op was more scary and fun than I could have ever imagined. For me, I needed to accept that instability is incredibly necessary to grow and learn about oneself. It is experiences like these, and many others, of being thrust into the deep ends, with co-ops we've never been in and roles that we've never taken on, that have all helped us become stronger people and learners. By showing myself that I could survive alone in new places and hard jobs, I showed myself what I was capable of. I expanded and I stretched myself. Our lives don't stop being transient once we leave here at Antioch. We choose jobs in places we've never been, we choose to get another degree in a field we've never knew existed, and we continue to change and move with and against the world.
But life isn't only about instability. My perspective is a little different from Delaney's. When I came to Antioch, I expected to do as many co-ops as possible, as far away as possible. I craved the instability and transience promised by this place, and I expected nothing less than constant uprooting. It wasn't until I found our community that this changed. I ended up co-oping on campus one term, and I ended up spending my last 2 co-ops in the same place, spending 8 months in an intentional community in upstate New York, where I had the same routine every single week. I learned that I could live with routine, and although change is good, in this turbulent world, we are able to carve out places for ourselves to create our own stability. Of course, this relies on a great deal of material privilege, but I hope to use my future to help others to have opportunities to take their own autonomy in creating their own space in this world.
Transient mode means going out into the world, being ready to be thrust into the deep end, and trying new things.
Constantly ready and excited for the change that is around us.
But there's a part of the phrase that we are forgetting.
The full quote from the student union originally reads, "Transient mode, home." Over the last 4 years, there have been one constant, our home here at Antioch.
Although the world is changing, something that will always be near and dear, and as bad and good it is for some things to be temporary, the same applies for things to be permanent. One of those things has been the community that I found here at Antioch.
During these past 4 years, we have made friends that will last a lifetime, we have met mentors that will have permanent impact on us, and we have found a sense of confidence and identity within the Antioch community.
My first year at Antioch was a whirlwind of adjusting to college academia, people, and the community. I am naturally a very outgoing person, and I love talking to other people and helping them. And I love the idea of community government. And I knew I wanted to help, but I wasn't sure how. During one night of orientation, Asher and I actually sat down and read all the minutes from the previous year's Council to figure out what was happening and what was important. This was the first, but definitely not the last time that we sat down to read some very boring documents to figure out what was going on with our school. During my first year, I was very nervous to share my opinions and thoughts in class and in community. I felt out of place and like I was not quite prepared for the intellectual caliber that was asked of me. Over the next 3 years, this changed due to co-ops and guidance from my advisors like Jennifer Grubbs and Teo, and general support from Beth Barnes. At the beginning of this year, Asher approached me with the idea for running for Council, the last shot I would have to do it. And even though I was incredibly uncomfortable, I chose to do it. Community governments is part of what makes Antioch, Antioch. Participating in it, showing up for community in very specific roles, and trying generally to pay attention to what is happening has not only been challenging, but a rewarding experience. Antioch is Antioch because of how we care and how we are passionate about our ideas. I think for me, being on Council allowed me to come full circle in my understanding and participation in our community.
As someone inclined towards anthropology, I've always been one to think about identity, community, and belonging. In high school, I never had much of a school spirit, and the idea of identifying with a school sort of seemed off to me. As well, when I first imagined going to college, it was just another thing I had to do, sort of like a step between adolescence and adulthood. As I progressed through Antioch, however, that changed. I was able to gain a knowledge of the history of Antioch, learning that I was now part of a historic institution with a long track record of creating extraordinary alumni. Through all the members of the community, staff, faculty, and students, I was able to feel like I was part of something bigger than myself, a project in construction or a work of art perpetually in creation, as we all work together to define what is Antioch now. And with this graduating class, with my peers celebrated here with me today, I'm able to look forward to the future and ask, what are we all going to do? what can we all accomplish? And I know the answer is grand. In our long history, and the work of defining who we are, and in these questions of who we will become, I have found an identity with this community, and I am proud to be an Antiochian. And even when I wake up tomorrow, or in 2 years, for better or for worse, I will still be an Antiochian.
Coming to Antioch was a big choice for both of us, and not one that we took lightly. But once we were here, the choice to belong to this community, especially the Antioch community, was an easy one, and it will be a choice that will stick with us forever.
Transient mode, home.
Life may be turbulent, and it may feel like you'll always be driven by everything except yourself.
But what we want you all to remember today is at the end of the day, sometimes you can choose what becomes permanent. And we will now enjoy another selection from the World House Choir.
One day, when the glory comes, it will be ours, it will be ours. Oh, one day, when the war is won, we will be sure, we will be sure. Oh, glory,
Glory. To the heavens, no man, no weapon formed against, yes, glorious, destined. Everyday women and men become legends. Sins that go against our skin become blessings. The movement is a rhythm to us. Freedom is like religion to us. Justice is juxtaposition to us. Justice for all just ain't specific enough. One son died, his spirit is revisiting us. True and living in us. Resistance is us. That's why I wrote to set on the bus. That's why we walk through Ferguson with our hands up. When it goes down, we woman and man up. They say stand down, and we stand up. Shots, we on the ground. The camera panned up. King pointed to the mountain top, and we ran up. Chill. For real. When the war is won. Sure. Yeah. Glory. Glory. Chill. Come on. Chill. Tears of victory and liberty. Yeah, check it. Hey, I kicked through the door to glory and the light shone before me. The book of time was open, it was then I read the stories of the pioneers and martyrs who gave the skull and the horse so LeBron could play ball. Brian could steady on, they survived the tidal waves on ships transported slaves. Wrote books on Jim and Jane, CRC and Lorraine. People called them insane, they went against the grain. Civil disobedience, the genius was in their brain. Let me tell you how it feels to be in chains and handcuffs. The spirit weight down on you heavy, hard to keep your head up. Forgetting who you are sometimes, cause the CO says such things. So degrading, your identity is crushed. The devil is a liar, only truth resides here. I believe I'm the phoenix, only truth will rise here. It was written, I seen it, we victorious. God paved the way, and it was beautiful and glorious. Let's go. Claim the victory. Claim your accomplishments. Be proud of your greatness. Glory. Glory. Y'all came a long way. You had to fight. everybody through the struggle. Y'all put them hours in when y'all was studying, y'all was grinding. But now y'all here and y'all making it. Congratulations to y'all. Yeah. The boys won. It's said and done. Yeah, cry. Okay. Cry. Glory. Y'all victorious now. Glory. Give it up for the graduates one time.
Hello again. You still good? You still happy? All right. I'm so excited for us to share this opportunity to recognize Antioch College's faculty and staff who have received excellence awards from the Strategic Ohio Council on Higher Education, also known as SOCHE. Awards may be won for one of 3 different categories for faculty and 3 different categories for staff. First, the SOCHE Award to faculty for excellence in teaching, research, or service. The winners were selected through a process of community nomination and peer review by a selection committee comprised of tenured and long-standing faculty colleagues at Antioch College. Receiving the Excellence in Teaching Award, Professor Forrest Bright, Assistant Professor of Visual Arts 2D Media. Forest classes are innovative and engaging. From students throwing birds at Glen Helms Raptor Center to playing baseball against the local candidates for village council and Mayor of Yellow Springs, he skillfully teaches and learns in action. His strong design and artistic practice is expansive, engaging, and experimental. There's a tactile closeness with his art, and his students are invited to discover a world of their own authentic artistic practice. Receiving the Excellence in Research Scholarship Award, Professor Jennifer Grubbs. Assistant Professor of Anthropology. Jennifer's research emerges from an activist scholar model of engaged ethnography and blended mixed methods that make her work relevant to students interested in changing the world, not just through the themes she explores as an anthropologist interested in undoing structural violence, but because of her applied methodologies and her commitment to community-based research and teaching. She recently published a monograph, Equilibration, Reimagining Resistance in the Green Scare, 2021, with McGill Queen's University Academic Press. Also receiving the Excellence in Research Scholarship Award, Associate Professor of History, Dr. Kevin Magruder. Kevin exemplifies engaged scholarly research through his academic research, twice published by Columbia University Press, and through contributions to the community of Yellow Springs. Blacks in Yellow Springs Encyclopedia and Blacks in Yellow Springs walking tours have elevated Black history to prominence locally and provided a model for community historians far beyond the Midwest. Yeah. His work has focused on intergenerational sharing of history and story, passing knowledge from elders to the younger generations. Next, the SOCHE Awards to staff for excellence in student success, service, or assessment. The winners were selected through a process of community nomination and peer review by a selection committee comprised of colleagues at Antioch College. For excellence in student success, Beth Barnes. Beth joined Antioch College in 2018 as Student Success Services Coordinator. Antioch students, faculty, and staff describe Beth as an inspiration and a terrifically hard worker. From her contributions to Thrive, Antioch's first-year student support program, to her leadership in the college's first care team, Beth engages in a variety of ways to support Antioch students, often using her experience as a teacher to connect with Antioch students and faculty. Most importantly, Beth is known for consistently putting students first and working tirelessly to increase student support on campus. For excellence in service, Penny Addison. Penny has shown steadfast dedication to her work and to the college community through her focused attention into cleaning, caring for, and improving our college spaces. For example, before an accreditation visit, she scrubbed under the heat registers by hand and touched up ding doorways in the president's office, because that's just what she does, no? Even in the midst of challenges brought on by COVID-19, Penny continued to go above and beyond in her service to the college. She has been a person of support to our community and demonstrates a strong commitment to the Antioch community. And for excellence in service, Joshua Miller. For over 11 years, Joshua has worked diligently in support of the Antioch mission. In his role as Assistant Facilities Manager, Joshua provides a high level of service in response to requests from faculty, staff, and students, and he does so with efficiency, care, and attention to detail. His kindness and respect to all members of the community shows throughout his work. In addition, Joshua readily shares his talents as a skilled woodworker, honing his craft with beautiful pieces such as wooden hand sanitizer stations in response to COVID-19, a beautiful round table he made personally for our new president, a swing set for our students, and his podium. Congratulations again to all of our award winners, and thank you so much and sincerely for everything that you do.
I'm proud and honored to introduce our commencement keynote speaker, Mr. Emmett Schelling, an esteemed leader supporting and fighting for the rights of transgender people in the state of Texas and beyond. Emmett's organization, Transgender Education Network of Texas, or TENT, is dedicated to furthering gender equality in Texas through education and networking, to halt discrimination through social, legislative, and corporate education. Time magazine recently named Emmett to their annual Time 100, a list of the 100 most influential people in the world. During a time when the state of Texas is systematically legislating against trans people and their supporters. I'm so proud and honored to have Mr. Emmett Schelling as a commencement speaker. And I've been moved by his work and his actions, and I admire his persistence in a long fight for transgender people's rights, fighting through relentless attacks that have never seemed to have ended. So I see Mr. Schelling as an excellent role model in the manner of Horace Mann, who urged us to strive to win a victory, or not to die before we win a victory for humanity. And I believe Emmett Schelling is going to win a huge victory for humanity. So please join me in welcoming this important human rights activist to Antioch College and today's special celebration.
Thank you for the kind words. I really appreciate it. However, I think it'll be a victory if I get through the speech. So, good morning, or afternoon, I guess. I want to first make sure that I thank the faculty, the Board of Trustees, staff, and alums for having me here today. But most of all, I want to thank y'all, the graduating class. That's right. So when I started researching that I was going to have to give a speech, in the Google search, it let me know who else was giving commencement speeches. So I'm sorry for y'all that I am not Taylor Swift, not Tim Cook, a few other people that maybe you probably know. However, my hope is that I can be an unexpected messenger of truth for all of you today. As we wish the graduating class the very best as they embark on the next chapter of their journeys. And also, I think collectively and more importantly, everybody in this room, right, we all need, I think, a kind of reminder to bring us back to the important things. Hopefully, I might be part of that today. I want to talk a little bit about fairness, and I want to talk a little bit about equity. Because right now, y'all, I don't need to rehash what y'all went through, right, in your last 4 years, unless you want me to talk about the pandemic. I don't know, I can. But there's a collective conversation right now about what is fair versus what needs to be done. When we look around the world we live in today, clearly something needs fixed. There's no question about it. But how do we address it? And that's where we're at right now. And that's what you all will begin to lead. In understanding the word fairness on its face, it sounds good, right? Everybody wants things to be fair. I want things to be fair. But what does that look like in practicality in a world where generational unfairness has reigned? Where we live in a system that was designed to do exactly what it is doing today. So in understanding that, what does fairness look like? It looks like equity. And equity is hard. Equity requires those of us who have more comfort than the people that we are vocalizing our empathy for, to cede that, to cede some of that comfort, to cede that power. Understanding this world cannot be a just world if we are not willing to be uncomfortable when we are in places of privilege. When we understand that is fairness. That is fairness. When we recognize the empathy, the humanity, and the collective necessity to show dignity as a common courtesy of just being in this world together. In my research, I also found out that y'all were, your first leader, I believe, Horace Mann, was considered a reformer. And reformer to me, I don't know, it's a whitewash version of, I think, activism, right? And when I look at that, right, reformers in history, not always great. Not always. I don't know a whole lot about Horace Mann, so no comments there. But what I do know is that in order for the change that we need for the world that y'all deserve to live in, because the world that you are coming into now, I am sorry. I think I'm 41, yes. The time we're in now, when I look back, I think I should have done more, and I should have done it sooner. I should have pushed myself into places of discomfort to understand what I could do to help the people I love, to help the people I don't even know that are impacted by this. We have a funny idea that we have to have a connection, right, in order to be moved. I think in my work, right, the thing I hear the most is, I don't know anybody trans. I don't know a family with a trans kid. But this last thing, it really got to me. And I thought, and when I hear that, I'm like, I'm happy you're moved, right? So like, as much internally as I want to be like, you didn't realize that a while ago, trans kids, not good. Black trans women, worse. So if you have not like been listening, and this is the time you're coming, I'm not sure, you know. But at the same time, I have to recognize I'm the same person. I look back and I think, should have done more. Could have been better. I grew up in Ohio. I grew up in the northwest corner, right up against Indiana and Michigan. And this is my first time back since moving to Texas. And when we were trying to figure out, okay, where do we stay? Because I don't really want to stay in a town of 4,000 people. It's not my thing. And looking, there's a safety component right now, right? That's a reality for people. There's a safety component, simply being as we are and existing in this world. And so when I looked, I was like, my kid, who's 23, was like, Dad, did you know all the towns around us were sundown towns? And I was like, yes. Why do you think I don't want to go back? But in understanding that, right, those are the things that are in our face, right? And so when I look back and I think in those conversations where like my first reaction is, man, irritation, you know? And then my second reaction is understanding. In order to address what is in front of us, we have to be laser focused that it is time to bring as many people as we can with the right intention. And the second part is what gets tricky. Because human beings, we're funny. And we're pretty messy. Oof. And so when you think about what does that look like in context, for me it's been, and I'm gonna go back, you know, I was born in Seoul, South Korea, adopted into this family, very, very white, middle of nowhere, middle of cornfields. But my mom, being very religious, would always tell me, and it's something that's continued to guide me, that people expect to hear messages in a big booming way, right? In this context, she was talking about from God. But she really pressed into me. It's the still small voice of God. That's the one that you need to listen to, because that is the one that is deeply connected to you. That is the one that outside influences, if it is deep enough in you and you understand that and you can listen, you will know what that means as you go forward. It's understanding that when we say justice, we have to have a very succinct idea of what that is. So when I say I'm fighting for trans people, I'm fighting for trans kids, that means the people who are my people that are the most impacted by the multiple factors that make us who we are. And trans people, who, it's this assumption, right? Like the most interesting thing about me is being trans. I'm like, I'm a pretty boring guy, so maybe. But I thought about it, and I was like, no, this is an issue, right? We have to understand, if we do not see people as a whole, as aside from the major factor or factors that are impacting that individual and their ability to just be. I'm not even talking about succeeding at this point. I'm talking about existing. Because I think that is another issue when we put this all together, is understanding what is the ground we're standing on. You have to know what your surroundings are. You have to know what your mission is. You have to have a clear vision of what those values are internally. You have to have a clear ability to hear that still small voice, because that is the voice when it is the worst. Everything feels like it's crumbling. I mean, yesterday, SCOTUS, today we see for the first time in I don't know how long, now we've signed a gun reform bill, and it's this push and pull of a world I wasn't ready to change because it had no intent to change. Because we go back to that system, it was designed well. Tired of hearing people say the system's broken. The system's perfect. The country's broken. Going back to the still small voice, a lot of people, I think, will try to convince you that justice looks like something that doesn't connect to what you understand it, doesn't connect to who you are and the justice you seek and the justice you need and the justice you deserve. What I have learned in 40-some years is that we decide who we are, because we are the ultimate truth tellers of that. We hold that truth. And when justice does not look like justice for all of you, for your whole self, at your most full, at your most powerful, at your most complete, with all of the things that make you good, bad, ugly, and in between. If that is being brought to you, packaged as justice, does not correlate with the justice that every single part of you needs and deserves in this world, it is not justice. And understand when I say that, I don't mean in the sense of full individuals sometimes. I mean, when we look as the collective charge, for me, it's understanding that a black kid who's been kicked out of their family home because of coming out as trans, put into our foster care system in Texas, which is now seeking to harm children within foster care, children within their homes, criminalizing parents, for me, is to understand, yes, Part of my job is absolutely to make sure that we are doing everything we can to support these families, to connect them, to provide whatever relief we can. But at the end of the day, if I do not, first and foremost, guide myself understanding my duty, my charge, is to make sure that child who's gone through a world of trauma already, I have to make sure our job is addressing how to stop that and how to get this child safe, because I know all of us will benefit. I know that even though we like to, do things that benefit us, right? Even though on the surface, and this is what I feel we struggle with, right? How do we benefit from Black Lives Matter, right? How do I call myself taupe, because I feel like person of color is maybe a little bit generous. So I say taupe, but what does that look like? Hey, keep it real, Shelby. And to understand that I need to be understanding in the best way I can, and also have the humility. I can never understand to a certain extent, but I will support no matter what, because I understand that this is necessary, that if I say I care about people, that I need to care about people that aren't me, that aren't connected to me, that aren't in my family, because this is the charge. The other thing I want to talk to y'all about is trauma. Because I looked up, I did my research as much as I could, and I found the student paper, the record. So, I read a little bit more than I honestly intended to, so good job, journalism students. But in particular, I was really trying to understand who this class was. I asked my kid, hey, if I was your commencement speaker, what would you want to hear? What would you need to hear? Because really, I'm just gumming up the process before y'all get your diplomas. So let's make it worth something, right? And what would you need to hear from me? Alex was like, don't bullshit them. We're tired of being bullshit. We're tired of adults, of people in the room who look at us like not adults. And we're sitting here looking at student loan crisis that has never been so bad. We're looking at an economy, a system of government that's been completely almost hollowed out. And we're looking at a climate that has been worse than it's ever been before. We're looking at a world that looks nothing like the world you came into, and you need to understand that. And I was like, oh, maybe they should talk to me. And I'll sit and listen afterwards. But the thing about trauma that I have experienced a pretty good deal in my lifetime. All of those scary statistics that you hear about being trans, right here. And I've been wrestling with this because I know young people are overwhelmed with the amount of trauma y'all have experienced, y'all have bore witness to. And at the same time, what I'm realizing is it's creating us to be so trauma averse. We forget that trauma is part of life. It is part of this human experience. But what is not and should never be is trauma that's manufactured from others to hurt people, right? when we think about that, right? Because I'm tired of hearing about, like, well, these kids just got to get over it, pull yourselves up with the bootstraps or whatever that looks like. As somebody who wears boots, I don't have straps, so it's always like very confusing. Whatever. But in a sense, right, is thinking about what does that look like and understanding y'all have the agency to say, I reject what you're trying to suggest, because the trauma, in large part, aside from the pandemic, that you all experience now is manufactured from people who are living and sharing in this world. And so understanding and putting, hopefully, all of this together in some sort of way that makes sense. When Anita asked me to send my speech, I said, this is how I speak. Do you want me to send it? And she said no. But it's understanding, how do we take that trauma that happens naturally and know when it's time to face it. And I say that because I struggled with wanting to come here. Not because y'all are not great, but because I'm going home for the first time after this. I'm gonna go see my mom. And my mom is the reason anything good in me exists. My mom is the reason that I can still stand here. And she has late-stage Parkinson's disease, and this will most likely be the last time that I get to see her. And I didn't want to come, and I knew I needed to. And that's what I'm trying to let you know of the nuance. Know when it's traumatic, and you have to face that because it is part of life's experience. Know when it is time to have courage, and know when it is time to reject something wholeheartedly because that is not your trauma to bear. No, coming into this world, y'all know more than I ever did at this age. And while you're facing a world that I never did, you are smarter, you are more interconnected, you are better iPhone picture takers. My fiance says I'm real bad. Maybe somebody can give me a tip. But you are literally the future we need. You, simply as you are in front of me, you're the solution. Stand in that. There's no journey there. You are already here at that journey. You are young, you are educated, and you are equipped with an understanding of what the mission that you want to achieve in your lifetime is. And over, what I hear from young folks alike is simply they just want to create a world that can be existed in, which is a tall order, and at the same time is one that when we look around, you are literally the ever-changing evidence that what you are seeking to achieve, you have already begun, you have already arrived, and now is understanding how to take all of the tools and all of the power and all of the stubbornness, y'all are stubborn, whew, and put that towards achieving it. Lean in hard to the people that love you fiercely. Lean in hard to the people that tell you the truth with kindness and love. And stay away from the people that say, well, I just want to be honest with you. Because nothing good is going to follow that. Trust me. And the last thing, and a simple thing that I hope you all take with you, is knowing to protect your peace. And why I say that is because I'm learning that right now. In order to be in this world, in order to show up with the kindness that I try to and sometimes fail, right? Of knowing what that takes for me to show up, most importantly, as a father, as a fiance, is learning what that means, what no means, what protecting your space means, protecting your life. Not everybody who, wants to be in your life needs to be in your life. That's just what it is. And at the end of the day, when we say you put it all together, in order to achieve the world that we are seeking to, you first must protect your own peace. You first must make sure that you are well enough to address what's happening. Because it's hard, and it will break you down. And if you do not protect that space, you do not protect your peace, it will harm you more than it's worth having so many people surround you. So, with that said, I hope all of you have a wonderful rest of your day, a wonderful rest of the weekend. My last sort of note to you, and I was waiting for last on this, is one lesson that you learned today is that you get to go through 4 years of college and get a degree to have a guy who didn't finish his come give you a commencement speech.
Will the candidates for the Bachelor of Science degrees please rise? President Fernandes, it is my great honor to present to you the candidates for the degree Bachelor of Science from Antioch College. They have been recommended by the faculty for these degrees.
Upon recommendation of the faculty and by the power vested in me by the Antioch College Board of Trustees and the state of Ohio, it's my pleasure to grant you the degree of Bachelor of Science. To those students who have chosen to wear academic regalia, something that's not been done at Antioch since 1935, please move your tassel from the right side to the left side. Oh, cool.
Just want to take a moment. It's a big deal. I'm Bill Fox, I'm Dean of Students, and it's a privilege to call these names. And thank you for welcoming me into this community. This is my first commencement, as well as President Fernandes. So thank you so much. Are we ready? Okay, let's do it. Let's do it. Cadet A. Brockington, in absentia, self-design major, biomedical anthropology. Alexa Greer, self-design major, conservation biology. year, self-design major, biomedical science, summa cum laude. Emma Sue Jones, self-design major, conservation ecology, and ethnobotany. Austin Taylor Korner, self-design major, biomedical science and health psychology, magna cum laude. Kazimir Kowalski, self-design major, ecology, summa cum laude. Ulises Espinosa, self-design major, sustainable pedagogy, policy and media strategies, global transnational engagement focus, magna cum laude in absentia. Jasmine Bree Timister, self-design major, psychological, social, and biomedical sciences, summa cum laude. Ike Keel Wiley, self-design major, psychology and cognitive sciences, summa cum laude. Maya Ziegler, self-design major, biomedical science, summa cum laude.
Will the candidates for the Bachelor of Arts degrees please rise? President Fernandes, it is my great honor to present to you the candidates for the degree Bachelor of Arts from Antioch College. They have been recommended by the faculty for these degrees.
Upon recommendation of the faculty and by the power vested in me by the Antioch College Board of Trustees and the state of Ohio, it's my pleasure to grant you the degree Bachelor of Arts. Those students have chosen to wear academic regalia. Please move your tassel from the right to the left.
Olivia Faith Akers, self-design major, creative writing and human interaction, global transnational engagement, magna cum laude. Levi R. Brown, in absentia, self-design major, political socialization and radicalization. Kabe Davies, self-design major, the historical and anthropological study of Liberian diaspora identity. Tavanel Savannah Dodd. Self-design major, psychology of social well-being. Congratulations. Julia May Hainzer, self-design major, the art of stories and education. Congratulations. Akili Mosi Hayden, self-design major, community psychology, healing through a Black lens. Congratulations. Tennyson Knox Love, in absentia, self-design major, visual computerized digital arts. Ashley Nicole Matias Matos, self-design major, psychology and creative practice, global transnational engagement focus, cum laude. Jordan Miller, self-design major, justice studies and political economic theory. Lola Nelson Betts, self-design major, crafting the Antioch trilogy. Lexi Payton, self-design major, critical pedagogy and creative writing, summa cum laude. Amira Porter Watterson, self-design major, visual storytelling. Maria Nieves Ramirez, self-design major, communication and media studies. Asher Nicholas Ruck, self-design major, cultural anthropology and community studies, global transnational engagement focus, cum laude. Delaney Francis Schlesinger-Devlin, self-design major, psychology of social behavior, French language focus, and global transnational engagement focus, summa cum laude. Sophie Singer, self-design major, environmental education and interpretation. Cara Stedman, self-design major, psychology and writing, magna cum laude. Isabel Juniper Wan, self-design major, history and narrative writing, magna cum laude. family and friends, faculty, staff, alumni, other students, everyone here in this tent, beyond it, or across the globe, or beyond it, please join in congratulating the class of 2022 with me. That was fun to watch from up here. It is now my pleasure to introduce Tony Dosick, who will welcome our newest alumni.
Good morning. My name is Tony Dosick, and I am the president of the Antioch College Alumni Association. On behalf of the 20 members of the Antioch College Alumni Board, who represent 15,000 Antioch College alumni, welcome. What joins us all is a thread of mutual connection, a sense of shared values and mission about what it means to be a graduate of a liberal arts college like Antioch, to think critically, and to link that thinking and learning to action and commitment. We come from different times. I'm a 1967 graduate, and you are 2022 graduates. But we share so much. A love, and dare I say it, hate, relationship with this college that pushed us out of our comfort zones and required us to work and live on our own in the belief that education is not something that just takes place in the classroom, an understanding of the importance of community as a laboratory of democracy, and how to build settings and circumstances where all voices are heard as part of a commitment to self-expression and self-development, as well as our obligations to one another. A chance to build our own education, which even in my day was possible as I combined political science, sociology, and history. I'm truly honored to be with you on this special day. Now go off. Now, more than ever, we need you to use your Antioch education to win those victories for humanity. And welcome to the family of Antioch alumni. I am pleased to introduce Coco Gagne, class of 2018.
Hi, everyone. I'm really grateful to bear witness to this occasion today. I graduated with the class of 2018 and just finished up my term as Antioch's first community manager since the reopening. And as I said when introducing myself to some folks last night, now I just like to hang out, so here I am. Jane asked me to say a few words as one of the people who's enjoyed the gift of coming to know many of you well. I'm speaking to you today in earnest as someone who's experienced the gravity of Antioch, both as a student and as a staff member. I could offer hope, but I won't tell you to be hopeful. And I could give a progressive vision of the future, but want to acknowledge something far more entangled. And what I'll say instead is that a door is open. And I didn't plan it, but there's actually like an open floating door frame on the horseshoe behind us, so it just kind of worked out. As a student of philosophy, I'm often thinking about the good. What does it mean to be good? What does it mean to lead a good life? What is good? What is the purpose of having what is good? And in a social order where most of us are cast as guilty for failing the impossible confines of normativity, I don't think there is such a thing as having or being good. I cannot tell you that the pursuit of a degree is good, and I cannot assert that Antioch is good. We are often saddled by the oppressiveness of institutions, and here at the college, we often attribute a vague notion of Antioch when we experience the reproduction of hegemonic structures that were always destined to fail us. However, even with the presence of those structures, Antioch is the site of an alternative history, trajectory, and gathering. It is also a tension that exposes what we're abandoning and what we're growing in the beyond. As Stefano Harney offers, institutions are aerated spaces, which means we might consider the spirit of the in-between. I say this to account for the complexity of your experience here. I say this because it releases us from the weight of making a monolith out of a mesh.
Yeah.
I say this because we must remember that life is far larger than the systems designed to ensure our suffering. Some of your life has happened here. Work, boredom, pleasure, rage, confusion, illumination. Will you claim it all? Yes, you earned a degree, but you've also been finding a way to live. Life does not climax. It is movement and infinite variation. On some occasions, like this one, which are both arbitrary and sacred, we're afforded the opportunity of a pause, to stop at a threshold and contemplate a distance which is not linear and a self which has never been fixed, but as Tiakosin Gostor says, is innocent in every moment. Today is an ascribed event of reflection and celebration. What are we celebrating? What have you survived? What love have you toiled for? I suspect you have made a relationship with a text, a person, a space, an aspect of community that has brought you a bit closer to your undoing, and by extension, the undoing of the violence that is antithetical to our interdependence. I suspect that this experience has brought you deeper into your power, into surrender, and into compassion. This is worth celebrating. Our learning together can create something that we're all better off for. Radical learning, which occurs in the classroom, in the cafeteria, in the Glen, in the OKL, on co-op, with our friends, with strangers, or in solitude, is an open process that connects us to our deepest pain and our deepest longing. Our learning is a labor that can bring a bit more ease to the struggle. I don't know how to talk about wholeness or completion, and yet in the same breath I recognize that things end. I know that loss is a guarantee, as is our aliveness. And so you will continue through the door, one foot in front of the other, each step a practice in what is porous, unbearable, irresistible, precarious, and yet to be. Through this practice, we give ourselves to the freedom of living joyously with one another, and every step is worth it. Thank you. Jane will bring us home. You're going to tell us what comes next, right? Okay.
Okay, now it's finally time for us to celebrate our amazing class of 2022. We have individually and collectively learned so much from them, and for this we are grateful. We believe in their commitment to win victories for humanity and graciously accept their plea for us to do the same. Please now just wait for a moment and follow after our procession out of the tent, where Yellow Springs Village Manager and 206 Antioch College graduate Josue Salmeron will lead our graduates to the mound for a short traditional ceremony. And we'll have a recessional will be played by the World House Choir and Dr. Catherine Roma.